Back in February, the Trump administration invited some public comment on its AI action plan, which is a policy plan that's required under the administration's recent executive order on AI. And a number of AI leaders, including OpenAI, Google, Andreessen Horowitz, they've all answered that call, releasing different policy proposals for this AI action plan that they're recommending. And the kind of gist here is pretty controversial, actually, in terms of just how blatant they are with what they're recommending. So I'm going to go through OpenAI's recommendations, but Google and Andreessen's also echo these pretty closely. So OpenAI focuses on two kind of hot button issues, which are federal preemption of state level AI regulations and targeted restrictions on Chinese AI models. So OpenAI argues that there's all these hundreds of individual state AI bills, and they're risking bogging down innovation and undermining America's technological leadership. So, to counter this, they want the federal government to put in place a framework where AI companies can actually innovate under the guise of federal regulation, not state regulation. They also took direct aim at China's AI leader or emerging AI leader, DeepSeek, labeling it as state subsidized and state controlled. And OpenAI actually expressed serious security concerns regarding DeepSeek's reasoning model R1. They actually went so far as to recommend banning the use of AI models produced in the People's Republic of China, including DeepSeek, and particularly in countries designated as tier one, which are those align closely with the democratic values and US strategic interests. Now, Google, in its recommendations, which were released in the last couple of weeks as well, also kind of came out against fragmented state regulation. They didn't really come directly at DeepSeek and Chinese led AI, but did advocate for investment in foundational domestic AI. And interestingly, they also devoted a bunch of space to US copyright laws. They contended that exceptions to copyright, such as fair use and data mining, are vital to AI progress because they enable AI companies to train their models freely on publicly available material. This is also something OpenAI was advocating for in its recommendations. And then if you look at Andreessen's recommendations, they echo the same types of things OpenAI and Google also were suggesting. So, Paul, this kind of reads to me like the major AI leaders are basically coming out and saying, we want federal AI legislation, not state legislation on AI. We want to get stronger on Chinese companies building AI. And we want to make it really clearly legal for AI companies to train on copyrighted material. Does that kind of sound right to you?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything surprising in their positions. Like, this has been pretty obvious that these are their positions. I just think it's kind of jarring in some ways to see it so clearly stated in their proposals. But the state level policies, I think at last count I'd seen there was over 700 state level AI bills right now at
Mm,
different differing stages within states. You could imagine being in an AI lab and having to, like, follow along and understand and, like, try and scenario plan for what if this law passes in Texas or California. It's I'm sure it's a lot of work, so I can understand why they wouldn't want that happening. Copyright law, we've touched on this many times on the show. It is a very known fact that they took copyrighted materials to train these models, and they continue to do that, including pirated books,
mhm.
that we just were talking about, I think, with Meta in the last week or two. There was a lot going on around that. And then, China, and what they're going to do is everything's going to be put under national security. Like, that's what this administration appears to care about, or at least says that they care about deeply. And so I think that this administration is going to side with many of these arguments. Like, there's I mean, obviously I'm not a policy expert here, but it's very clear that these arguments seem to jive with what the administration has kind of laid out thus far about what their policy may be. The one I wanted to zoom in for a second on here, Mike, because we've talked about it so much, is the copyright issue about
Yeah.
was it legal for these labs to take copyrighted material from you and I, Mike, from YouTube creators, from authors, from brands, blogs, like they took it all and they trained on it. And do they have any responsibility to provide to the original creators? Their argument is no, and they claim it's under fair use. So that is what's being challenged in courts right now, and what they basically want is the federal government to come in and say, "Psh, get rid of all these cases." What they did was completely legal, and they can move on with their lives so that the US can win the AI war, basically. So this is, again, it's kind of jarring to see it so clearly said, but this is directly from OpenAI, what they called promoting the freedom to learn. I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so I'll just highlight like 2 paragraphs here. American copyright law, including the longstanding fair use doctrine, protects the transformative uses of existing works, ensuring that innovators have a balanced and predictable framework for experimentation and entrepreneurship. This approach has underpinned American success through early phases of technological progress and is even more critical to continued American leadership on AI in the wake of recent events in the PRC, People's Republic of China, right? That's right. Okay.
Yep.
OpenAI's models are trained to not replicate works for consumption by the public. Instead, they learn from the works and extract patterns, linguistic structures, and contextual insights. This means our AI model training aligns with the core objectives of copyright and the fair use doctrine, using existing works to create something wholly new and different without eroding the commercial value of those existing works. So that is their argument they will be making in courts, and they're making it to the Trump administration saying, just side with us now and let's get rid of all these cases and let's move on innovating. It goes on to say in other markets, rigid copyright rules are repressing innovation and investment. So now they're coming at like, don't let other markets get ahead of us. Um, and it says applying the fair use doctrine to AI is not only a matter of American competitiveness, it's a matter of national security. The rapid advances seen in the PRC's DeepSeek, among other recent developments, show that America's lead on frontier AI is far from guaranteed. Given concerted state support for critical industries and infrastructure projects, there's little doubt that the PRC's AI developers will enjoy unfettered access to data, including copyrighted data, that will improve their models. If the PRC's developers have unfettered access to data and American companies are left without fair use access, the race for AI is effectively over. America loses, as does the success of democratic AI. So they are straight up saying, we are going to take these copyrighted materials, and if you don't let us, we lose. And
Mm.
if you go to what the Trump administration has said, they have very clearly said, we will not lose in AI. It is a matter of national security that it must be democratic AI. And they are just regurgitating those words back to them and saying, make this go away, because the only way for us to do what we're doing is to use copyrighted material to do it. So I don't know. I mean, it was not surprising at all. Like we've known this was their position, but to see it this blatant and across, like, I mean, this is like 2,000 words or something like that
Right.
in the copyright section, to lay it out as clear as they did, connect it to national security, connect it to competitiveness, directly, connected to the war against China for AI supremacy. I was just plain as day. And so again, like, I have no idea where this lands. I'm not a legal expert. I've talked with many attorneys who are legal experts who don't know where this lands. Like, this is an unknown, but the big variable here has always been, what's the Trump administration's position on this? And, um, where does it go from here? But I don't know. Again, I think that the administration values winning more than anything else.
Mm.
And if copyright is a hindrance to that happening, then I think that problem goes away. That's kind of my current belief on what's going to happen.